Hello, everyone. Iain MacMillan here with BetSided. I'm joined today by JT Thomas, a former NFL linebacker, partnered with Done, which is a mental health company providing online and judgment-free ADHD treatment. We're going to talk about that stuff here shortly, JT. But right off the bat, I do need to talk to you about something that's going on this weekend because there is a game in the NFL between two of your former teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Giants. The Giants 5-1. But if you look at the betting odds, actually underdogs to the Jaguars this week. I want to get your thoughts in the game. Do you think the Giants are rightfully underdogs here? What's your take on this big matchup on Sunday?
Well, I gotta be fair, although I'm an enthusiast, I don't watch the game as much as I used to. You might find that a little bit odd, but when I do get a chance to see the highlights, I see that the Giants are rolling. I see that the Jags are a bit better than they've been in the past. I had a great time there in Jacksonville. And obviously, to have a chance to play for the Giants was an amazing thing. Really be hard for me to pick between the two. Who's home? Where's the game being played?
Believe it's in Jacksonville, I think.
Okay, well,
look that up really quick.
The Jags are pretty tough at home. I remember playing against the G-men and scoring my first touchdown in the NFL. So, I think I might have had about 12 tackles, forced fumble recovery for a touchdown. Had a pretty decent game against the Giants. That's why they ended up signing me, I think. So, it should be a good one. It'll be a tough battle. Will be hard for me to pick, right?
All right. Well, I'll take that for an answer, I suppose. Let's kind of get into the weeds here. Let's talk about your experience as a football player and the effect that it has had on your health. It's a topic I think it's starting to get a little bit more popular in terms of how football really affects the players. So why don't you dive into that a little bit and kind of your experience with the sport and how it's had an effect on your health?
So back when I played, we didn't quite have a psychologist in the building. Right. So after a few missed meetings as a rookie, and as things started to amp up with your responsibilities in life in the NFL, I knew I was maybe a step behind. Right. I was that kid that was always procrastinating at the work, but could actually hyper focus to get a good project done at the last minute. Right. So I was able to manage as a youth. But then when stakes got a little bit higher as an adult with ADHD, I definitely needed a therapeutic use exemption to start to be able to take care of myself mentally, man. ADHD was probably my biggest detractor from my performance at times in the NFL. But once I was able to get the support I needed, I started to make it right.
Do you think that is something that we're seeing kind of an increased awareness of in the NFL? Is that something that we still need to take steps towards increasing the awareness in that area? Or
yeah, psychologists are in the building now. That's a great step forward. And there's a myriad of things that contribute to mental health in this relationship with the NFL. Obviously, the contact, the CTE, right? That could disrupt things, right? And the rest could just be your environment, how you were raised, your mental makeup. And a lot of it is the nature and culture of the beast of the NFL and competitive sports. Kind of puts mental health on the back burner. But as I've stepped away from the game now into my fourth, fifth year of retirement, I've definitely had a chance to spend more time investing in my mental health and in people and in platforms that help make access and affordability a bit easier for folks. So,
how big is the mental game in terms of competing at as high of a level as the NFL? Obviously, you and anyone else in the NFL, very good physically, very, strong athletically, but just how important is that mental aspect of the game?
about 90% of the game, quite honestly. I was maybe an undersized linebacker, but my mentality, right? I didn't mind running through guys, and a lot of it is based off of where you're raised and who raised you. I'm raised down in South Florida, to a single mother, although my dad was in my life, not born to a single mother, but my dad was up in West Virginia finishing school. That kind of molds you into how you think and what you believe is true in society and how you perceive threats and all the other things that end up calibrating into what we start to think, feel, and do. So, it's been a journey for me, and I'm sure it's a journey for a lot of the guys to not only get that mental edge that you need to stay in the game of football, but to maintain it, to sustain it, right? For me, I kind of came up with my own mentality and way of thinking, stay ready. That's my deal. And it just makes me more present, right? To each day, each opportunity. But hey, I can't lie and say that, I, like many of the other NFL players, don't still struggle. We're in a bubble. We don't have many resources as far as support. Not many people understand what we go through on a day-to-day basis. So when I partner with a company like Dunn, it's really to bring awareness to the situation, to let sports players know that it's okay to be able to get the help you need, and represent my community as well. Blacks, minorities, people who are underserved and don't have the kind of access to resources as far as mental health goes. So I'm just trying to do my part and pay it forward while I fight my own battles on the day to day.
Yeah, I think that's obviously extremely important, your mental health. And it's something that back the old school sports way, the old school way, the NFL was just kind of suck it up and get back out there. Are we trending in the right direction of kind of getting away from that narrative, especially with coaches too? Because I still see it sometimes at every level of sports that there are still those old school coaches out there that think with a concussion. I know when I played a concussion, it's like, oh, you just got the wind knocked out of you. Suck it up and get back in there. What's kind of the best steps that we can take to kind of get away from that and talk about our mental health, both from like a CTE, a concussion standpoint, and from like a psychological standpoint, if you're, experiencing ADHD symptoms or, experiencing depression, anxiety, anything like that? What steps can we kind of take to go in the right direction in that area?
Well, first you got to communicate, don't stay to yourself. You got to reach out and get help. Right? And once you get help, it kind of starts a more formal process of education, understanding, what you're dealing with first, and then actually being diagnosed with what you may be dealing with, right? And then there's the work that has to be done after you're diagnosed, to stay on the right plan, whether it's cognitive based or with medicine, and some people use alternative medicine, right? But the key is to find out what works for you. Right. I think the game is doing that, and the players are too, right? Even more than the game or the coaches, the players are taking less crap,
Right.
The high schools to the colleges with all the flexibility that kids have these days. You're kind of trapped at a university back when I played, right? You had to move away from the conference. You had to sit out a year. Whereas now, if kids don't feel like that there's not mutual respect, they'll find somewhere else to play. So even more than what's being done from a technical standpoint to improve the game and mental health, I think naturally the game is evolving into a space that is more comprehensive as far as wellness goes.
I'm curious your thoughts on the Tua situation. I don't know if you saw that, because I know you mentioned you don't watch it as the NFL as much as you used to, but Tua was knocked out of a game against the Bills, entered concussion protocol, re-entered in the second half of the game, and then the next week had one of the scarier knockouts that you'll see in the NFL. And obviously there's a lot of controversy surrounding that. Them putting him back in the game that quickly against the Bills the week before him, them making him play the following week, which resulted in an even worse injury. Did you see that? And what are your general thoughts about that situation and how the Miami Dolphins dealt with it?
Very unfortunate for all parties involved. Feel bad for Tua. And the organization, I'm sure they don't want, things like that to happen. And you have to fight against the will of the athlete, to want to get in there and fight it out. And sometimes you have to be more of a fiduciary than necessarily an owner, right? The way you take another level of care, about the lives of those involved, and to not let someone's competitive edge get in the way of making the right decision. So that was very unfortunate. It reminds me of some of the more scarier points in my career. And when I look back at the game now, it's just, to look at it from this angle and this perspective, I wonder how I did it sometimes, right? From the concussions, to the ACL, to the injury is inevitable in the game, right? And all you can do is take all the steps to try and mitigate those things. And hopefully we never see, lack of care like that, in any situation in the NFL going forward.
How do you feel about football in general, just as a sport, with how rough it is? I know it's getting popular now where parents will keep their kids out of the sport or maybe just play flag football. Do you think that you should wait until you're a certain age until you start tackling because of those potential risks?
I probably won't have my son to start banging as soon as I did, 5, 6 years old. I think some of those things play into it as well. It's okay to learn the fundamentals through other outlets like flag, 7 on. They even have flex football now, right? I think there's different mediums now to be able to compete, all the way down to esports, and we have to use those. It's definitely a bit more focus on things like health and safety when it comes to youth sports. I've coached my team down in Fort Lauderdale, the Western Tigers, my Pop Warner club, and I saw some things that you just can't catch it all. The game is by nature a dangerous sport, and you just have to be sure that you're taking all the steps to try and mitigate all opportunities for an increased amount of risk when you're playing the game. You want kids, you want everyone involved to have a positive experience from the game, right? And now that I step away, I've had my own battle and journey with perceiving the game and what it means now after seeing a little bit too much of the game in the NFL. But I often smile when I see the youth get a chance to take advantage of the smaller luxuries in life, like youth sports, right? Everyone remembers back when they played the youth sports, are usually friends for life, and those are some of the things that the game gives you a little bit different than dollars and cents, right? The kind of discipline that a kid with ADHD growing up in South Florida needed growing up, right? So the game has this way of paying you back. And sometimes you get the short end of the stick. I wish I could have walked away from the game with a couple Super Bowls, right? But you also got the other end of the spectrum where, you have guys who have, not only season-ending and career-ending injuries, but almost life-threatening injuries in the game. So I'm grateful. It's hard to complain, but, I think we all have our days when we ask ourselves, hey, would I do it all over again? If I could, and if I had to make that decision, and there's days where you feel more confident in that answer than others. So it's an ongoing process.
I am interested in this because I took a look at the Dunn website and I saw a quote by you on the website. The quote is, "I learned how to turn my ADHD into a strength by better managing it. Getting help was the best thing I ever did." Can you dive into that a little bit more for me? How was it that you turned it into a strength of yours?
Well, I had to figure out, what it was first, right? And once you know your opponent, then you got a much better chance of defeating it, right? And I think if you go years and years untreated, undiagnosed, and don't have any resources for dealing with it, you find yourself in no man's land. You find yourself under operating and not quite being able to function as an executive, and all the things that come from not being able to maybe pay attention or control oneself. And ADHD is just one area, that people address when it comes to mental well-being, right? Once again, there's anxiety, there's depression, there's anger, all the different things that one might deal with, comorbidity, right? So I think each individual, just like in real estate these days, right? How each investor is different. Each person, man, we're all so unique and different. We all have life experiences that make up the people that we end up being today. So, to each his own. I try my best to respect where everyone is in their process. Whether it's maintenance in a good thing, or trying to rid some of the bad habits, right? I can appreciate both parts of the process.
I love it. I encourage everyone watching this to check out the Dunn website to learn a little bit more. JT, I got to finish off with this. I got a little bit of a wishy-washy answer from you, if I'm being honest, about the Giants and Jaguars playing against each other this weekend. So let's just finish off with this. I want a little bit more of
What's
a
the spread?
answer. What's that?
What's the spread? Who's the favorite?
Spread is so the Jaguars are 3-point favorites.
Okay.
But what I'm going to ask you is Super Bowl. So then maybe not necessarily head to head here, but two dark horse teams that still need to do a lot to win a Super Bowl. But Giants 50-1, Jaguars 75-1. Who would you rather take to win the Super Bowl? At least give me a direct answer with that.
I got so much love for both of the organizations, man. Right? I retired a Giant, but I played some of my best ball as a Jaguar, man. I wouldn't want to get all those folks in New York and Jacksonville all upset at me, right? Um, but the Giants are about due, you know. Although I feel like Jacksonville could be that Seattle Seahawks and start to win their first and maybe a few in a row. All it takes is one, right? If we're saying the game, maybe the Jags defend home on this weekend, right? If we're saying Super Bowl, maybe the stars finally align for the Giants, and they're able to keep their mojo going. Look like the defense is playing tough. I'll pay a little bit more attention this weekend as they face off.
All right, so there we go. We got some answers. We got Jaguars this weekend. We got Giants for the Super Bowl. Perfect. It took me a little bit, but I got the answers out of you. Thank you so much, JT, for joining me. I appreciate it, man. You take care.
No worries. Good speaking with you, Ian. You have a great day.